Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Land Development Podcast. I am your host, Ryan Glick. And before we get into today's episode and introduce our guest, just a real quick favor to ask for all of you. I've been asking this on, I guess, the last couple of episodes, but if you wouldn't mind leaving a rating and review on your the podcasting app that you're using to listen to this, goes a long way in helping the show get discovered by people that are searching for land development podcasts. So it takes a couple minutes. If you wouldn't mind doing that, I'd be really grateful for you. So let's get into today's episode. And today I'm out at the Knapp Properties office, and I am happy to have joining me today the president and CEO, Chris Costa.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So where we like to start all of our episodes is really just digging into the journey that my guest has, gone through to get to where they're at today. And so I know you've been with Knapp Properties for a while now, but kind of looking back to when you got started in your career, was it always something that you knew you wanted to get into real estate, or was there a different path you took to actually get into this industry?
Well, I guess my path probably isn't a typical one. I started in public accounting I was an accounting graduate at the University of Iowa, and went to work for Deloitte & Touche in Des Moines. I had an opportunity to see different industries in my work during my 6 years in public accounting. And real estate just happened to be one of the areas I'd spent some time auditing or advising companies on. So you get to develop a little bit of an understanding of the industry in general. R&R Investors was one of my early clients, which they do, they're a competitor of ours, so they do a lot of the same stuff that we do. So it did help me understand and kind of visualize what a career in real estate might be, but it's not the direct path that I took. I went to work for a residential construction company after my 6 years in public accounting. It was started by one of the Knapp family members. It was Bill Knapp's brother actually started that company, and I served as its CFO for 4 or 5 years, and then this opportunity came about at Knapp Properties. And really I started as a bean counter, but I maybe consider myself an accountant that loved the opportunity to expand my knowledge through my accounting degree, but never really wanted to be an accountant. So early on, I got involved in operations at Knapp Properties, and as time went by, development really became an offshoot of one of my responsibilities, and it's now something that I'm responsible for with Knapp. And every day is different. And we do a lot of things in Knapp Properties. We own, we manage, and we develop. And development certainly is an area of intrigue because, like I said, every day is different and different problems and challenges.
Yeah. So is that what kept you in this industry? So, I mean, you're in public accounting, and then you get into, the real estate industry, and you stuck around. You didn't leave. So what kept you around?
I do think the challenge, it is it impacts so many different parts of our existence, from home ownership to where people spend their time during the day when they're doing their work, our residential apartment portfolio, providing opportunities for those that aren't ready to have home ownership. It touches so many different aspects of our life. And personally and selfishly, every day is a different challenge, which has always been appealing to me, as that's been probably the biggest reason I've stayed engaged and enjoy what I do every day. Nice.
And so I imagine with your path really working your way up within a single company in this industry, it doesn't feel like that's as common these days that people are doing that. What was that journey like of continuing to kind of progress in your career and making the decision that, hey, this is where I want to go, and then ultimately being in the spot right now where, being the president and CEO of a good-sized company here in Des Moines?
Well, I think my perspective on that would be I've been really fortunate to have great mentors whether it be in public accounting or here at Knapp Properties. And I've worked for great people. Being around Bill Knapp all these years, he has had an influence. And then maybe more my direct mentor was Jerry Nugent, who did lead this organization for several years before I did. And he brings a different perspective than I do. And it was so nice that we have always been open here to other perspectives and points of view. He is an attorney by trade, and he's way more black and white, I guess. Even though my accounting would dictate I should be black and white, I'm just more of a management in the gray kind of person. And we've always had that synergy that we fostered. It wasn't a slugfest. It was a collaboration. So I was able to learn from him the development side of what we do, and he learned from Bill Knapp. We just had a great lineage of developers here, and I don't know that you can beat that kind of training and experience. So I did get really lucky in having great mentorship.
Wow, no, that's great, and that was actually one of the questions I was going to ask was really that the role that mentors played in your career, and it sounds like it was a big part of it. And it feels like it's one of those consistent things with people who get into the industry that you can figure certain things out on your own through mistakes and everything like that. But having somebody there who you can kind of lean on or ask questions or maybe avoid making some of the really big mistakes by getting some of that guidance does feel like it has played a big role in your career.
Well, and an interesting point that you make, you got to learn somehow. And unfortunately, a lot of time you do learn by making mistakes. And I'm sure I've made my fair share of mistakes, but I've been able to avoid a lot of mistakes by being put in a room where we're having conversations about where the potential pitfalls are. And we only get to have those conversations because the people with the experience are bringing up these issues that had been brought up to me initially without the experience. No clue. So I got the benefit of all their maybe challenges and mistakes they'd made along the way. And that's one thing about learning from somebody who's done it for so long and been so good at it, and both Bill Knapp and Jerry Nugent. So, yeah, it's an excellent point.
Yeah, no, that's great. And so before we kind of shift into some of more specifics around Knapp Properties, one thing I noticed just about you personally is that you're very heavily involved in several different nonprofits. And so that seems to be something that has become a big part of your life. And so I'm just curious what led you down that path and what makes you so passionate about various nonprofits that you're involved in?
Well, it's funny. First of all, I've had a lot of life experiences that have led me to be passionate about situations like cancer. I'm a 2-time cancer survivor. My oldest son has a developmental disability, so I'm passionate about things that may have impacted his life. I'm passionate about economic development because that, at the end of the day, that is all of our jobs. Is we need to help this region become more prevalent, and we do that by having great amenities in the community, creating jobs, and everybody benefits, especially those in real estate. But I am involved in a lot of nonprofits. I still like to think of myself as a North Side Des Moines kid. I mean, I grew up in a middle-class neighborhood. I saw, a lot of people, obviously, I grew up with did not have silver spoons. I had to work hard for everything I've gotten. But at the same time, I want to make sure we're trying to provide those opportunities for people that weren't given the same opportunities I was. I mean, I had access to a great education system. I had 2 loving, caring parents who could transport me. And I just think there's so many parts of our community that don't have those opportunities where I can help. I would love to be able to help. You get to have a little gray in the beard as you progress, and it does seem like there's times I have something I can offer these organizations, and thankfully they're creating these opportunities for me to be able to do that.
Cool. No, no, it's great to see, and I mean, it makes sense, like exactly what you're talking about. So I think maybe transitioning into a little bit more on Knapp Properties. You mentioned real briefly at the beginning just around some of the things that you do, but when you describe what Knapp Properties does to somebody for the first time who hasn't heard of Knapp Properties, how do you generally explain what Knapp Properties does?
Well, we are a full-service real estate company, and to me, that means we own real estate, we manage real estate, whether it be commercial or residential, homeowners associations. We develop real estate. We take vacant ground, sometimes farm ground, and turn it into something else. Sometimes it's residential lots, sometimes it's commercial land where you can build office and retail. And then the final thing that we do is we broker transactions, and we get in the middle of leases and sales and purchases all the time. So we think we touch pretty much everything in the real estate industry. We don't have a in-house construction arm, so we're kind of a free agent in that perspective. When we go to build something, we have a lot of contractors at our disposal, which we think is an enviable position, but that construction is the only part that we don't handle internally.
Okay. How do you, so since you worked your way up within the organization, I'm just curious, how do you feel that you playing different roles along the way until you're in the role now? How do you think all of that experience that you had in the different roles helps you in your current role?
Yeah, there's no question that everything kind of builds on top of what I had done previously. I did not do day-to-day property management, which is probably the one thing in our organization that I haven't been able to build upon. But I would agree with you, understanding, I mean, I started really as controller, and then all aspects of our financial wherewithal were under my purvey. And understanding the economics of opportunities was something that I was really good at. And in my current position, we don't do anything unless it's economically viable. And that sometimes requires what I've learned in the past to be built upon. But I completely agree with you. I mean, everything I've done to this point has helped build on previous points of my experience here. And development is just a unique animal. I mean, I did not come up through the development world. And like I'd mentioned previously, without mentors, it would have been a lot harder for me to get where I'm currently at from a development perspective. But fortunately, I had that opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah. So what does your current day-to-day look like then as, the title of president and CEO generally it probably means some of the same things in different organizations, but here at Knapp Properties, what does that role kind of entail?
Well, the beauty of what we have here at Knapp Properties, I have great leaders underneath me. So I have almost complete trust in different phases of what we do because I have a great leader in those positions. I have Jake Lundgren heading up our property management and brokerage, and Brett Highland heads up our financial side of things, and Stuart Reddy heads up our legal, and then I have Tom Whitman, who works under me on the development side of things. So I'm really fortunate that I have complete confidence and faith in those people. So what it does is it allows me more to worry about strategy and vision and make decisions. A typical day for me is a lot of times I am counted on to be the final decision maker, and we have meetings, we gather information, I get information presented. I always say this isn't a dictatorship. If anybody in an organization has anything that they think needs to go into this decision, this is an open forum. Let's have those conversations, and then we as a team have the opportunity to make a decision. For instance, today I've had meetings in Polk City. I've had meetings with leadership from Pleasant Hill. So there are communities that we're involved in where it's important for me to have relationships with the leaders in those communities. not only to make sure that we're acquainted with potential opportunities, but that we are a sounding board if the community is looking to make a decision that may impact. We own land in a lot of different communities, and obviously our goal with land holdings is someday to turn that into something that's more valuable than farmland or just fallow land. And having those relationships with those communities is really key to us to make sure we understand where they want to go. They can hear from my perspective what we think is important from the city's point of view. And just as an example, when cities ask me, what can we do to help Knapp be more successful? My first answer is almost always help with infrastructure, public utilities, whether it be street systems, sanitary sewer systems. We can't do our job unless the city is out in front of those issues. And if the cities have the money, which I mean, that's really the challenge almost always. They have an open ear and they're willing to bring infrastructure to you. You got to be able to justify it, creating some value so they can collect some taxes. But those are conversations that you get to have when you have good relationships. We want to mutually benefit one another.
Yeah, no, I like that because I do feel like in some of the, the conversations that I've had, it seems like it's like a give and take a little bit from the municipality and, the business, the development business, and trying to find the common ground, what benefits the community, but still allows the development company to have a positive economical, outcome on the project and everything like that. And so it seems like some cities are more open than other cities, but it does. I can see how you say that relationship with the communities is so important, and it sounds like that is a big part of your particular role in maintaining those relationships.
And we've got to be cognizant of what a city's financial capabilities are. They've got a lot of mouths to feed, and at the end of the day, the state legislature made some changes that affect their revenue streams through property tax collection. And those are tough conversations we're having with cities right now, is how much revenue they have available to perform what we think are tasks that would be beneficial to future development. And so they have to, let's say, reprioritize based on their, I think most of them are looking at reduced revenue streams from property taxes. But again, if we can collaborate and understand what their challenges are, we can better determine a path forward. I mean, we're not going to be the developer that's holding our hand out, says we need everything the city has available to us. Let's work together to be successful. And like you mentioned, at the end of the day, economics have to work. City's not going to put infrastructure where it doesn't make sense to them. We're not going to develop where it doesn't make sense to us. So we might have the greatest land in the middle of a city, but if the market hasn't been driven there yet, it makes no sense, economic sense, for us to develop in that community.
Yeah. What do you think's been the biggest difference from when you started, or just over the years? What's been the biggest change in the industry that you've seen?
Well, that's a good question. Stormwater management has been a real change over my career. It used to be a secondary part of any master plan where we're looking at something bigger than 10 acres. And now it's almost the most critical portion, where the standards have increased, and we understand the reason that the standards have increased, but it does make compliance more challenging. It's taking land, otherwise good land that's available to us, and we've got to kind of use that for stormwater management, and it creates situations where when standards change and you've already got a development in place, you don't have the consistency that you may have had previously, where you could tell a landowner, don't worry about stormwater management, we've got it controlled in this detention pond, and then standards change and we don't necessarily have it controlled. Now, again, it's important to have great relationships with the cities because they'll work with you. But I do think as the greater Des Moines community, we are going to have to understand the stormwater issues moving forward and how cities can better work with developers and create more regional stormwater management facilities where there's not a pond every 40 acres.
Right.
I mean, it's a maintenance nightmare for the organizations that develop them, and then cities hear about it from their constituents. So there's probably a better answer going forward. But if I just think of the one thing that's really had the most impact development-wise, that'd probably be it.
Yeah. Okay. So I think one of the last things to touch on here is just really curious on, you've obviously been involved in a lot of projects over the years. Are there any that kind of stand out to you as maybe the one that was the most fun to work on, or one that was maybe the most challenging to work on, or anything like that you could talk through?
Yeah. Maybe it was 2016, we had heard Holmes Murphy was in the market to relocate their corporate headquarters. Obviously, 100-year-old Des Moines company, great organization, and we had not been involved in those conversations about where they might move to and being asked to participate. But we had an employee that had a relationship with Holmes Murphy's CEO, which we found out after the fact. But I had a contractor, someone from White's company, ask me if we were involved in Holmes Murphy, and if we weren't, could we partner to try to give them a proposal. Told them we'd love to partner, but I didn't really know how we were going to get ourselves involved. Come to find out, one of our employees had this relationship, and that was really the light bulb moment. Like, all right, we got a path. And we threw together this team. Substance Architecture was the design group on it. White's was the contractor, Knapp Properties, the developer. And we put together a presentation of what we thought a company like Holmes Murphy might appreciate in a corporate headquarters. And we asked our employee if he could get this to their CEO. Our employee was Gary Steenblock, was a gentleman, but and their kids played football together. And we were lucky enough that he got this proposal in front of him. He said, okay, I like this. Let's have you come in and give us a presentation. What we came to find out subsequently is they were 95% of the way down the road with a new location that they were planning to move, and never had any thought of looking at other options. And what we'd presented was so good to them that they wanted to further pursue it. Furthermore, they loved this land we had out in Waukee, which was bordered by a pond. It's on Grand Prairie Parkway out in Kettlestone. They wanted to have a wow moment where they could recruit employees, retain them in a nice corporate headquarter. They wanted something that from a cost standpoint was easy to justify to them. They're very cost conscious, as I'm sure all companies are. And we came up with a product that really worked for them, and we ended up signing a deal with them to develop their new office building, and they are bursting at the seams out there. Their employees love it. They tell us they've had experiences where people are driving by the building and pull in and like, what company is this? Do you have open positions? So those are the feel-good stories. I mean, everybody won in that situation. Our group was rewarded for coming in at the 11th hour with a real, call it a Hail Mary, but it was obviously very appealing. We think Holmes Murphy had a great outcome in the situation. Waukee has been a great partner. Holmes Murphy has continued to purchase land out there from us where they, someday will they'll hopefully expand that corporate campus. But it's been a real success for us.
Nice. I mean, it is a great location. Really nice looking building. I mean, I drive by there all the time. So yeah, that is a really cool place. Well, I think maybe this is a good spot to come to a close here. What is the best way for people to get in touch with you or connect with you? Is it through social media? Is it what's the best way people can get in touch with Knapp Properties? What's the good connection points there?
Yeah, the best way to get in touch with me is email is almost always the best way. But we have obviously a website, knappproperties.com, of which we are probably 90% of the way of updating. So we hope to roll out a new, revised, beautiful website in the next couple months. We've come to find out that's a lot of work. We've been working on it, I think, a little over a year, honestly. But we're all over the place. You see our signs around the community. We love it when people tell us they see our signs. That's our brokerage group out making themselves known and advertising what we have available.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for joining me. Really appreciate it. It was a great conversation. And for those of you tuning in, that's all for this episode, and we'll talk to you next time. Thanks.
Thanks.